Human rights are important to me because I believe that everyone in the world deserves the right to dignity, whether they're criminals, terrorists, or just people that have been caught up in the wrong situations. I'm also a strong believer in human rights because I know that a lot of the history of countries that are developing today, that are less developed nations than us, are that way because of European colonization. And as a European girl, I believe that it is our duty to give back to those places that we stole from, that we wiped out generations from. We even wiped out generations from our own country, Australia. And that seems to be the key focus of everyone in Australia at the moment is Aboriginals, because we are here and we can see directly the effects that we have had on them. But we can also go over to Africa, where European colonization had massive effects on it for a century at least. And that's not something we usually think about. We usually think about Africa being the way it is today because of their corrupt government. But why is their government corrupt? Why do we never see beyond the fact that, yeah, their government's corrupt, so it's their fault that they are this way today? But the fact that we stole from them means that it is actually partially our fault that they are that way. We took away their chance to evolve like the rest of the world did during the Industrial Revolution and the Great Depression, where all the other countries were learning how to deal with their economy, their new technologies, and everything that was like that. These countries had no say over it, no control over it, because either their people were in European or American countries working with them as slaves, or in their own countries being used for their natural resources, having generations wiped out. To me, human rights are important because it's not fair to play the blame game, to blame these people for the way their country is today. Human rights are important because I know that if I, or if any of my family or friends or anyone I see around here, if any of their rights were denied, there would be a big uproar within Australia. Right now we're seeing that over 100 Nigerian schoolgirls have gone missing. And like Australia, for the most part, is saying, well, that's sad, but what can we do about it? It's not our country, it's not our problem. But if that happened in Australia, imagine the uproar and imagine the international support that we would have. Human rights to me are important because there is no such thing as human rights without the input of other countries. These developing nations, while they don't need to be completely influenced by the developed nations, they don't need to have their religions and traditions wiped out. They do need help, though, to achieve political stability. Political stability is the only way that the developed world is going to gain their rights. I mean, yes, to get political stability, you need things like education for the younger generations, because one day the younger generations are going to be the politicians of their country, and if they are educated, then they're going to be more likely to run their country in a way that is considered acceptable to the rest of the world. To sum it up, human rights weren't just written for one culture or one ethnic group. Human rights were written for the whole world. Human rights belong to everyone, and so I strongly believe that everyone should be granted the rights that they deserve.